A couple of years ago, when I was 22, I was a total introvert who lived with my parents. Unless I had to work, I stayed in and played video games for hours. The only person I talked to from high school was Rochelle. Apparently, she felt really bad for me because one day out of the blue, she called and told me she had set me up on a date with her friend Lisa, who would have been 21 at the time. At first, I rebelled against the suggestion. Leaving the house alone and talking to a woman seemed daunting. But Rochelle can be quite persuasive, so I eventually agreed. Lisa and I enjoyed an old-fashioned dinner and movie night. She seemed so nice that all my usual nerves melted away. The date went great, and from the moment we first met, I had a feeling that Lisa was someone really special. At that time, Lisa didn't have a job and had no form of income. A week after our first date, she called me, crying, asking to borrow $100. She had had a massive fight with her parents, and they had kicked her out of their home. I ended up transferring $200 to her and offered for her to come and live with me at my parents' house. They wouldn't mind. I think Lisa was seriously desperate because it didn't take much to convince her to come live with me, a guy she'd only known for a week and met only once. She agreed to stay only until things sorted themselves out back home or she found a place of her own. She promised not to be a burden on me and my parents and would pay us back once she found a job. I was worried for Lisa. From what she told me during that call, her household was toxic as hell. Some cringe instinct in me sent me into white knight mode, and I immediately drove to Lisa's house to save her. She was waiting in the driveway with 2 big bags of clothes and some other belongings. Although my parents weren't ecstatic about having a stranger come live with us, they were generous enough to take her in after we explained Lisa's home situation. They put her up in my sister's room, which had been vacant since she moved away for college and only used when she came back to visit. For a few months, Lisa lived with me and my family. During the holiday season when my sister came home, Lisa shared a bed with me in my bedroom. After my sister went back to school, Lisa decided to remain with me in my room. We had created a powerful connection, and it was only natural that she eventually became my girlfriend. After Lisa found employment, we began to save money in order to move into our own place. I was promoted to supervisor at my job and decided to take her out for a special dinner as a way of celebrating. It was there that I dropped down on one knee and asked if she would marry me, catching her by total surprise, I guessed, from the expression on her face. My heart raced as I waited for Lisa's answer. I feared she was going to say no, and I'd be humiliated in the same way so many people were in those cringe-inducing marriage proposal rejection videos on YouTube. Relief flooded through me when she wrapped her arms around me, pulled me into a kiss, and said, "Yes, I'll marry you." Lisa and I announced our engagement and found a place to live closer to both our jobs. Not long after, we had the wedding. Lisa decided to make Rochelle her maid of honor for her role in introducing us originally. Our honeymoon in Hawaii was the start of 2 wonderful years of being married. Life with Lisa had been perfect until she suddenly changed her behavior. She went out for what I thought would be a normal girls' night, but she did not return until 10 a.m. the next day. I had been extremely worried because she stopped responding to messages around midnight and only sent an inebriated text message at 3 a.m. containing a jumble of words and letters that I interpreted as her saying she was spending the night at a friend's place. In the weeks after, Lisa became emotionally and physically distant from me. Our talks were fewer and less engaging, and sex diminished drastically. I thought maybe this was just a common part of being married. After all, you hear jokes all the time about husbands struggling to get their wives to be intimate with them. Or possibly Lisa was busy dealing with stress from work. Who knows? One night, Lisa invited Rochelle and a few other girls around for a wine and cheese night. I still didn't really have any friends, so I basically hung out with the girls for a bit, but got bored of the girl talk and inane gossip. I bid them good night and went into the bedroom to play GTA. Around midnight, I heard the girls leave, finally, and waited for Lisa to come to bed. After 30 minutes of waiting for her to come into the bedroom, I decided to go out and look for her. When I opened the door, I heard Lisa crying with Rochelle comforting her. They couldn't see me from where I was, and I couldn't help but listen in on the conversation. Then I heard Lisa say something that absolutely shattered my heart. It was convenient at the time. I had nowhere else to go, and he took me in, and things just escalated. He was so kind, and I felt guilty that he'd done so much for me. I just felt so sorry for him, and I think I married him out of pity. I couldn't move. I was in disbelief, unable to process what the two women were saying. Rochelle insisted Lisa should tell me the truth, not keep lying. But Lisa snapped back that she couldn't break my heart like that. She knew how much I cared about her. She began sobbing into Rochelle's embrace. I had to know what was going on. I stepped out into the living room and both ladies jumped in surprise. I demanded an explanation from Lisa about what she was keeping from me. She said it was nothing, just foolish girl talk. Rochelle sternly told her to come clean with me right away or she would do it for her. Lisa refused and buried her face in a cushion, sobbing. Rochelle looked me in the eyes and dropped the second bombshell in a matter of minutes on me. Lisa is in love with someone else. I was dumbfounded, unable to speak for a few moments. When I finally recovered my voice, I looked directly at Lisa and asked her if this was true. She had put the cushion down, but now she avoided eye contact and only nodded slightly. I had so many questions swirling in my mind. I needed to sit down and process everything. I must have looked absolutely shell-shocked because even Rochelle was crying now. I locked my emotions down and went completely blank. I asked Lisa to explain everything. She didn't want to talk or discuss any details, but eventually I got the story out of her and Rochelle. Apparently, on the girls' night out a few weeks ago, Lisa had gotten drunk and hooked up with a guy from the club. She went home and slept with him. That's why she wasn't home until almost lunchtime the next day. She had lied to me about staying at a friend's house. Lisa and the club guy kept talking, and they soon began seeing each other and meeting up to have sex. My greatest hurt was when Lisa told me she felt stronger emotions for him than she ever had for me in our entire time together. Right, because you only married me out of pity, I said, repeating her earlier words. Lisa showed a visible sign of shock and nodded with tears streaming down her face. She confessed how much she loved the new guy and that she had never felt that way about me. She also added with regret that she shouldn't have even married me. I finally reached my tipping point. All of the emotions I'd been holding back came boiling up and I lost control of my actions for a moment. I grabbed the coffee table with all the empty wine bottles and glasses, and it flipped over easily. The two women screamed in shock at my sudden outburst and the sound of glass smashing. Without saying another word, I went into the bedroom to get change before leaving to go to my parents' house. Nobody tried to stop me. I holed up at my parents' home for the remainder of the week. Lisa and I talked a couple of times during that time. She expressed sincere regret, but her opinion about our marriage being a huge mistake hadn't changed. We both agreed that divorce was the only option. Neither of us had much to our names. I didn't want any of the furniture or other possessions, so I gave it all to Lisa. The divorce was a fairly straightforward process. After the divorce, I quit my job and chose to move back in with my mom and dad permanently. For over 12 months, I never left the house, instead opting to play video games all day. As time passed, my weight began to pile on and my parents grew concerned for my well-being. They asked me to go to therapy, but I refused and continued to sink deeper into self-pity. Lisa had removed me from all social media, and our conversations were non-existent since the divorce. I heard through the grapevine that she dated the guy she cheated on me with for hardly a month before they called it quits. It felt like a punch in the gut when I found out. Now it seems she has moved on to someone else, a guy in his 40s who drives around in a flashy BMW convertible. After the divorce, my friendship with Rochelle fizzled out. Admittedly, I was a little bitter towards her. I think there's a part of me that blames her for introducing me to Lisa in the first place, which isn't fair, I know. It doesn't really matter anyway because Rochelle stopped talking to both me and Lisa and moved to another city. She's only texted me once since then to wish me a happy birthday. As for my future, I have no plans to ever date again and have wholeheartedly decided not to attempt another relationship. Love and relationships are overrated and total bullshit anyway. I don't recommend it for anyone. Thanks for listening to my story.